you guys have been asking for this video for a while now, and we are of course talking about the SteamOS Brewmaster 2.0 versus Microsoft's Windows. Now unfortunately, this is just Windows 8, not Windows 8.1, not Windows 10. And the reason for this is I can't update Windows 8. Seriously though, look at this. I know I don't use Windows much, but am I doing something wrong here? Why can I not update it? But anyways, once I finally get Windows 10, I'll do an updated benchmark of this. Until then, SteamOS 2.0 versus Windows 8. Now there's a few things to note. The first thing is that the process is pretty much the same as my last video. We're using GPU test 0.7.0. The tests are going to be Furmark, Testmark 64, Pixmark, Julia, Floating Point 64. We're also using Mad Shaders 0.4.1. We're using the benchmarks Marble, Grid of Cylinders, and Anti-Aliased Worms. And we're also using the benchmark from Counter-Strike Source, not Counter-Strike Go, because that doesn't have a benchmark. The graphics settings are on high, very high, full blast, whatever. VSync is on. We're also using the Uni-Engine Valley 1.0 with the preset of Basic. The Windows benchmark is using DirectX 11, and then the Metro 2033 Redux benchmark is basically the default benchmark. With Linux, I don't seem to have any control over which benchmark is played, so I just copied that benchmark on the Windows machine, and those are the results we get. And then the very last thing, what you're looking at is actually on my website, eg.io. This benchmarking chart started as a fully fledged JavaScript application, but this kind of data is really best presented in a blog or website, so I went ahead and did it that way. So SteamOS is the blue line and Windows 8 is the red line, and for this video I'm going to skip all the way to the bottom where we have all the benchmarks in one nice little chart here, and you can see the differences. In general, Windows 8 beat SteamOS in every single benchmark except for Counter-Strike Source, which I thought was really weird. You can see that the GPU test benchmarks were extremely similar, Testmark actually receiving the same 85 frames per second for both systems, with Julia Floating Point 64 giving the edge to Windows 8. Now when we get into Mad Shaders, you'll see the discrepancies grow. With Marble, SteamOS got 81, where Windows 8 got 88. Grid of Cylinders, SteamOS 26, Windows 32, and then Worms was a bit more similar. You got SteamOS getting 15, Windows getting 17. And then Counter-Strike, this is where things got odd. SteamOS got 65 where Windows got 60. Now I reran this about 5 times and I got the same result every single time. There was no deviation. With Uni-Engine Valley, you'll see that SteamOS actually lost. We got 34 frames per second with Windows getting 41. And then with Metro, SteamOS got 41 and Windows got 48. Now, of course, there's a lot of things to take into consideration. Like, for example, this is in fact SteamOS 2.0. It's been in development for what, 2 years at this point? Valve has done a lot of custom stuff to the operating system. I'd say this is pretty darn good. Creating a gaming-oriented operating system based on Linux is an extremely ambitious task, and I can't imagine how much money Valve is throwing into this machine. But given the fact that these games are actually playable and the benchmarks were pretty good, is an incredibly impressive feat.